So hi, everybody. My name is Louis. I'll be our MC for today's webinar, where we'll be discussing how to modernize customer, client, or member acquisition in the FinServe industry. Just a couple of housekeeping items that I'd like to get to before getting started. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please add them in the Q&A section. You'll see that see that at the bottom of your screen, and we will address them during the Q&A section at the end. Otherwise, you can also feel free to use the chat option. We will be able to respond or at least interact with any sort of live comments or questions that you have in real time. The webinar is being recorded. We don't anticipate needing the full hour here, but if you do need to hop off early or you would like to share this content, we will be sharing the recording to everyone who registered after the fact. So let's just meet the speakers briefly as well. I've introduced myself. With me today, we have the incredible Mally Diaz, who is a Senior Strategic Partner Account Manager over at AirCall, giving us a nice wave. Eric Pratt, founder and CEO of Instrumental Group, giving us an even nicer wave. And Nick Carbone, Principal Product Marketing Manager from HubSpot. Thank you all three of you for joining me today. With that said, let's just dive right in. I wanted to start off this discussion by essentially sharing the results of a benchmark study ran by Instrumental Group. They surveyed around 200 industry professionals, and the results, 41% of FinServe companies are indicating that their organization is not innovating fast enough to hit their goals. Very little or moderate innovation is being leveraged to help them truly succeed and compete on an even level playing field in the industry. So today we're really going to take a deeper dive into this, take a deeper look. We want to address three key challenges and really showcase how and what you can achieve and overcome with the right tech stack and the right team behind your implementation. We'll review how in a traditional industry, how customers have evolved expectations and how they want to interact with us, and essentially have evolved expectations on how their credit unions should be functioning. The newer generation of customer profiles has arrived and really has more modern and automated expectations. We'll also then address how you can navigate and compete with a lot of the newer players in this space, and hopefully have you walk away feeling more confident about understanding, adopting, and implementing new technologies to replace your traditional and potentially siloed tools, which in large part are feeding into the two other challenges. So just to set the stage, on the screen here, I think is a really great visual. It's a visual that showcases how for customer or client-facing FinServe organizations, there is a clear productivity problem. Historically, we've seen that leaders tried to solve the productivity problem with the old playbook of more, right? More reps, more tools, more activities is supposed to drive more productivity. But really what we've seen in recent years is that playbook has been commoditized and really essentially lost and is continuing to lose more and more effectiveness. So with me today, I'm going to pass it off to Nick from HubSpot, who will kick us off by introducing a more modern way or a more efficient way to achieve the same productivity goals. Over to you.
Yeah, I think like that's a good point about the old way being commoditized and sort of disrupted, but like that thinking is kind of underscored by how analysts like Gartner are also perceiving macro challenges in the industry as well. So they know that like the sales process must be improved to increase the chances of closing new deals and securing new revenue. And to kind of address that problem, leaders are investigating new solutions, mainly those powered by AI and this theme of like guided selling functionality that improves sales execution. So to kind of unpack guided selling a little bit, it's more of like maybe a nebulous kind of AI term that we'll define here, but guided selling software helps you leverage the power of AI to build an action-oriented sales process. So again, like using AI to drive actionable things to go from a world where we do quantity and move to quality, or more activities, but we're now focused on pushing products to actually helping people understand their challenges and how our products or services address those challenges. Guided selling features come in like two different flavors, both in Sales Hub that we'll talk about in a sec and in other platforms. So if you think about on the left, we've got predictive features. So something like a deal score that's powered by AI that's going to highlight opportunities in your lead or deal funnel that you'll want to focus on. And then on the right, we've got prescriptive features that help you take action on those insights or on those opportunities that have been surfaced by the predictive features. So something like a deal score that's going to show you what deal is the best. And then something like an AI-powered guided action that we'll talk about in a moment that tells you how to best take action on that opportunity and build more pipeline or close more deals. And Sales Hub is kind of built to address those two different use cases that I alluded to previously. So we want to have AI in the platform or AI in Sales Hub that helps you build pipeline and close more deals. So from the sales point of view, those are your two main jobs to be done. Frankly, regardless of your industry or any other like kind of like business model thing or sales process thing, it's always going to be about building pipeline and closing deals. So we've got that covered in Sales Hub with a bunch of different AI features that help you do those two things. On top of that, we have HubSpot's new Breeze AI solution. And we're going to key in today on Copilot and the prospecting agent, but we've got AI features overlaid onto building pipeline and closing more deals that'll help you get even more out of the tools. To unpack Breeze a little bit, I mentioned Copilot and agents, but there's a couple different categories. So the Copilot is a virtual assistant that's going to work with you anywhere across HubSpot. So not just in Sales Hub, but it works in our other products. It works across the internet. It works anywhere that you work with HubSpot. It's going to help you do what you need to get done. Agents on the other side of that work for you. So while Copilot works with you, the agents work for you to do things that are maybe more mundane or can be easily automated with AI. A good example for this use case or for this audience would be prospecting. So a prospecting agent that looks into your CRM and automatically on its own behalf reaches out to prospects that are a good fit for your business use case. And then kind of layered in there, we've got AI-powered features across our different hubs or products, as well as in the CRM that help you just improve your works. And we'll talk about a few of those in Sales Hub in a moment. And then overlaid onto all of that is Breeze Intelligence. So an AI-powered data enrichment solution that helps you understand buyer intent and just where to look in your CRM for good opportunities. So to unpack Copilot, which is something I'm super, super excited about, I boxed in some of the really good sales use case examples here. And you can read through, I'm not going to go through all of them, but just think about, for lack of a better word here, just like a friend in your CRM or in your sales tools. It's going to help you do company research or prep for a meeting or help you understand how to use the tools that you have at your disposal, or do something like, summarize a recent engagement with a contact or everything that's happened on a deal before you hop on that next call with them. So this is just, again, it's an assistant, it's an agent that's going to work with you across HubSpot as you try to get stuff done in your day-to-day. And then the agents that I just alluded to as well, these are going to work on your behalf. So to unpack this a little bit further, it's going to automate tasks like prospecting that maybe we can, pass off to the AI so we can work on more strategic things, like actually interacting with those prospects once, the AI has reached out and sort of warmed them up, or maybe, working on a deal or working on a proposal or something like that, and letting the agent handle our prospecting. They're also available all the time. They can be a little bit more productive than we can because they're always working in the background on your behalf. And because they're powered by AI, they're able to sort through a bunch of data that we maybe can't or don't want to, and identify good opportunities across your pipeline or across your CRM, and help you make data-driven decisions in the platform. So that's a bit about Breeze. And now to talk some about the AI-powered features in Sales Hub, I want to highlight three. The first of which is the sales workspace. So this is a single, basically pane of glass, or like one place that you can go in Sales Hub to get everything done that you need to get done as a sales rep. So if I'm thinking about this as a sales leader, this is going to increase productivity among my team, but it's also going to make our sales tools super easy to adopt because it reduces clickiness, it reduces switching back and forth between different apps or different tools or even different parts of Sales Hub, and helps drive productivity by surfacing tasks, guided actions, a calendar, my leads, my deals, all in one place to, again, make that person more efficient and effective. One thing that you may have caught on that last screenshot was guided actions. So guided actions are surfaced in the sales workspace, and these are actions that are being surfaced to the rep automatically that help them understand what they should be doing at any given time. So if you recall back to when I talked about predictive deal score a few minutes ago, we might get a guided action that says, hey, you have a meeting with Huey Vaughn in an hour related to that deal. You should probably prep for that meeting. Or, hey, you had a meeting yesterday that you might want to follow up on. Click here and we'll help you follow up. And then, by the way, when you're done with that, we've got 5 new leads in your pipeline that you'll want to reach out to as well. And if I were to click into any of those blue hyperlinks there in guided actions, I'd actually be popped into a queue where I can take action on those items right through the sales workspace. And lastly, I've mentioned the predictive deal score a few times, but this is a great example of one of those predictive guided selling features. So we've got predictive deal score that uses AI to basically assess and score on a scale of 1 to 100 all the deals in your pipeline. So think of this as a way to surface those best fit deals and maybe filter out some of the more poor fit deals based on different attributes related to the deal and how deals have performed in your funnel over time. So you can even see on the right some of the things it's looking at, like the probability to close or how many days it's been in the current stage or how many times you've interacted with that deal. So different ways that the AI is looking at every single attribute of the deal to help summarize that and kind of give you an easy to digest and easy to action data point there with that score of 74.
So thanks so much for that, Nick. That was very empowering and great to see how AI it's going through the lengths that it's going with HubSpot. From the AirCall side, I wanted to jump in there and expand on those channels. And one of those channels that I feel like people disregard a bit is the phone and, to a degree, the SMS channel, right? Just because it's always been there, right? It's one of those old technologies that people just don't give it too much thought. But that's the reason why this benchmark report here that was done by Vocavire Experience actually figured out by surveying, again, industry leaders across the board. And they are showing us that calling or the voice channel is one that is still quite preferred by different public that we talk to, because it's actually that still connects with humans, human to human, right? So 68 of the respondents still are looking for those human connections when they're talking to businesses, and sometimes even over some other channels. And if we dig a little bit deeper, 30% of those respondents even felt like they wanted to be able to connect to another human when they were evaluating high stakes buyers process, right? So that's where AirCall comes to play. So AirCall comes to play when we're talking about making sure that we're able to bring into that productivity of our reps without forgetting that human connection piece. So with productivity as a keyword, right, and this new technology, something as simple as a click to dial, right, avoiding reps having to actually punch in phone numbers when they're trying to make those phone calls, tend to save up to 15 hours a year for reps that have in their role the need to make calls on a daily basis. On the other hand, we also have elements like Power Dialer that allows teams to scoop just a list of contacts from HubSpot CRM, for example, and make sure that they can create those calling campaigns that are just going to make them more efficient as they go through their outreach efforts. Additionally, elements like Insight Cards on the AirCall phone pulls information directly from the HubSpot CRM, so an agent can see who they're going to be talking to and if they have any relevant information that is worth mentioning or addressing during those calls. And finally, in a way, and Nick alluded this in his presentation earlier, we take away the need of having reps to remember to go back and log those calls, to make sure that all that information goes back to that CRM point of information by just simply syncing all that data automatically. Then to move forward, right, we also have elements of just making workflows more automated. So using the incredible, powerful engine of workflows that HubSpot offers, you're able to make sure that using elements like AirCall text triggers some workflows that would allow your reps to forget about necessarily having to manually update properties or update information after a touch point, whether it's a call or it's an SMS conversation. And you can even go further away and make sure that those conversations are follow up with their email or an SMS to make sure that communication flows and nothing gets left to the agent to just make sure they remember to follow up with their clients. And then next, the analytics piece. So with the analytics piece, this is something that leaders and team leads really, really value, right? They want to see as much data as possible and make sure that their teams are performing to the best of their abilities. The challenge is that sometimes there's so much information out there that they don't even know where to look. So the idea here is by connecting your platforms together, you are able to see the right type of information or the right type of data when it's the most useful. So things like live monitoring allows team leaders and managers to actually see what type of calls are their reps making, the live calls, where are the agents that are still available to take more, or that if they do have the need to jump in and live coach certain new reps, they have the ability to do so there. Elements like inbound and outbound call reporting just gives them a better view of where would be the best times to either make those calls or receive those calls and update their processes accordingly. User activities will give those managers and team leads the ability to see where those reps are spending their time and where those teams could more efficiently go through their processes to hopefully maximize their abilities to convert new clients or new members. And then finally, I wanted to double down on the AI component that Nick was also sharing with us earlier today. With the AirCall AI component, we do also have the ability to make sure we provide this managers and team leaders the capacity to analyze those key topics or those trending topics that are popping up more and more during calls with their teams. Again, to give them an insight of where is the best way to provide either training or to provide better processes to make sure they're maximizing those points of contact that they're having with potential prospects. Elements like sentiment analysis, once again, right? You want to make sure that you have this AI helper in the back end, letting you know whether there is a positive, a neutral, or a negative sentiment regarding certain calls that your teams are hosting. And the call scoring capability, this is one of the things that will help, again, managers and team leads to be extremely effective when it comes to making sure you can provide your teams the right type of support, the right type of training at the right moment, right? Both by leveraging AI for automatic scoring of certain calls, as well as providing the capacity to upload your own playbooks to make sure you can score against them as well. Now, to put it all together, right, we have obviously the elements of the technologies, both on HubSpot side and AirCall side, but the true challenge comes on putting all this together in a formula that can work not only to identify the right piece of technology, but also how to implement it so you can drive the results that you're looking for. So, Eric, I want to give you the stage here to share some of your knowledge.
Yeah, thanks, Molly. Appreciate that. And that's a great call out. You see all these cool tools and you're thinking to yourself, maybe like, wow, like where I am to what this is, like, how do I get there? How do I bridge that gap? And so I just want to share a couple of best practices today for some of the stuff, like how you get from where you are to where you want to go and how you activate some of these tools. And I will start with like certainly going through how do you get the foundation set up, give you the foundation to build upon. How do you make sure that your team can adopt this stuff successfully and actually action it for good? I think one call out and summary that I would notice here is a lot of this is about efficiency and effectiveness of your team. And you heard both Nick and Molly give us a lot of really great goodies on things that can help your team be more effective and more efficient and ultimately serve your members and customers better. So how do we get there? You get there through really a successful adoption and building acumen with your team to know how to adopt it. And then finally, once you get the foundation in place and you get your team in there and using it, how do you actually measure performance and measure success? So we're going to go through each one of those, and I'm going to start with foundation. All right. So one of my big pro tips here is to take some inventory. A lot of what needs to be done on the front side is a little bit of a gap assessment to be able to dig in and take inventory of where you stand now and what your gaps are. And, you know, I prepared some questions, and a lot of this I think is great internal prep. Maybe you want to get together with your team and work through some of this stuff. But really, I think part of that gap analysis is like what needs to go, what data needs to sink in what directions, like what about team readiness here? I think a lot of this is truly about, are you ready to change? Are you ready to adopt new technologies? Are you ready to modernize your approach? And, you know, that certainly brings in some key stakeholders, your leadership team, your IT team, you know, really key components maybe that aren't really surfaced here in all these cool capabilities, security, compliance. What do all these stakeholders think? What is the resistance and what are the challenges you need to work through? I would suggest that if you really document all that stuff and build out a bit of a T-chart maybe on the pluses and minuses of why you want to change and what you're up against, that can be very, very helpful. All right, so once you get through some of that gap analysis and do a little bit of an internal assessment, then it's time to get serious about how do you implement these tools and get them activated. And the thing I will preach more than anything is taking a phased approach. And the basic adage is that Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And you've got to be able to crawl before you walk, before you run. In a phased approach, This phased approach can look different for different organizations at different level of maturities and stuff like that. I will say that you can activate these tools quickly. You don't have to boil the ocean. You don't need a 12, 18-month implementation plan before you can start putting some of these fantastic tools and technologies at your team's fingertips. So I would suggest some prioritization of like, how do you get some quick wins? How do you get to an MVP scenario that once that MVP is in place, your team can begin using those tools and leveraging them to gain some of that efficiency and increase their productivity while we work to refine the system, to integrate further, to bring even more layers of capabilities to your fingertips. My advice to you is make sure you start light and don't delay the ability for your team to activate for value. Okay, so we've got an implementation plan. Maybe we ran some of that fast activation. We're getting some of these phenomenal tools in your team's fingertips and they're starting to use them. How do we get them to adopt? One of my big keys is like taking a bottom-up approach, like build for the users, don't build for the organization. I think you will find that if you start by empowering your users first, inevitably the organization will get what they want in the end. And I'll show you how we can get that done. I think change management is the most critical piece here. This is, I know that change can be scary and there can be resistance and modernization and all this technology, AI, oh my, like how do I handle this stuff? I think a change management approach can be really, really effective. And I think that you will likely need some support from an implementation team like us executing change management. We've got all kinds of great strategies, tips, and formats to be able to walk through different training and adoption and reinforcement principles. But I also think there's some stuff that your team will want to prepare. And I would advise that, change management is top down and you really want leadership's involvement to help the organization understanding the why and the what's in it for them. And I really think it is smart to focus on what's in it for those users, how it's going to help their day. And when we're talking about sales, it's really all about like, help me sell more, right? Help me do more. I think a lot of people have a negative perception that modern systems are a burden on the user instead of a benefit to the user. And if you really focus on how this is going to make their job easier, make them go faster, and ultimately put more money in their pocket through increasing sales, that will be your winner. And I would stress that, you've got to be able to, from a leadership perspective, demonstrate your desire to invest in your user's success. And then you've also got to be patient, but you need to be persistent. Embracing and the disciplines here will yield results. There are some lead measures that will, over time, drive the results you want. This isn't magic sauce. It's not an easy button. So let's be real intentional about how we communicate the change and how we stick with the team. Speaking of sticking with the team, I am a big proponent for the ADKAR model. If you're not familiar with the ADKAR model, it is a change management and adoption format and methodology I think could be very, very successful. I would caution you that it isn't like build all this system, invest in these tools, run a couple trainings and send everybody on their way. I think it's really, really important to stand alongside the users and ensure successful adoption. And the ADKAR model for raising awareness, driving desire, building people's knowledge base and their abilities, and then constant reinforcement of best practices and the disciplines for success is a really, really good formula. And I would suggest that change management model include elements of ADKAR. Okay, so we've talked through implementation. We've talked through some of the keys to successful adoption by your users and teams. Now let's talk about some of the KPIs. And I think one of the things I will just say as an overarching comment, you saw some of the analytics that Molly shared. You saw some of the analytics that Nick shared. One of the phenomenal things about a modern CRM like HubSpot is its deep reporting capabilities. And we have so many different ways to visualize metrics. And I'll also say that like a lot of times with banks, credit unions, mortgage brokers, your data is desperate and it's spread all over, back to some of those implementation questions in your assessment. But we have the ability to enhance your KPIs and reporting for the entire organization, not just salespeople doing sales things. So the first report I'd like to share is a little bit more like organizational. with the proper integration between like a core banking system or maybe your loan origination system. We have the ability to bring in a lot of data. And as your salespeople are out there performing, we also have the ability to visualize some of these organizational KPIs. And this is some of the stuff that gets leadership real excited. This is an example of a dashboard that we built for a large bank that had some really specific KPIs that they want to see. You can see how we have lots of different visualization capabilities. You can dig into FDIC insured amounts and when are my loans going to be paid off and how many new CDs have I sold in a year. Some of those data points that are really important to your organization. Just understand that in a CRM like HubSpot, we have some really, really dynamic ways that we can build that data into reports. We have multiple ways that we can sort and filter that data over different time periods. We've got some great capabilities of like distribution. Even people that don't work in a CRM on a daily basis, we can put these reports in their inbox at any frequency you would like. Next report here is a little bit more like your active sales report. And I think this goes back to the if you think about what Nick shared with the sales workspace and where I can go to sort of figure out what my next best action is, from a sales manager perspective, maybe it's a regional manager or a branch manager, will have the opportunity to pull some of those visibilities in a team setting. So I can break that down by region or team or branch or any way you want. But I also have the ability to just as a salesperson understand like where does everything stand? How am I towards goal? What contacts should I work next? What's my next best action? And so there's a lot of different ways that we can pull insights and visibilities in front of individuals, in front of teams or regions, and in front of the entire organization. And I think putting some of these KPIs at your fingertips can be really, really powerful. Okay, so talk through those three things. The thing I want to leave you all with is this is actually achievable. It may seem a little bit like, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get there? I will say that change is difficult, but it is absolutely achievable. And I do believe that we can help you get there. So for that, just a couple examples here. Instrumental Group specializes in the financial services industry. We work with lots of financial institutions to help them solve lots of these problems. If your problem is I can't get my core data into the hands of my service or sales or marketing team, we can help you with that. If your telephony and your CRM and your core aren't integrated, we can help you with that. It's really, really important to have that single pane of glass and to really empower all of your salespeople with all the data and information they need to be really effective with their job. Then you can layer some of these AI capabilities on top to help them be really efficient, really effective in their day-to-day. So whatever those challenges are that you're facing, that's the type of stuff that we help institutions achieve. And along that line, I just brought in a couple real life examples. We have lots of these examples online. You can certainly go to our portfolio on our website and read more about these stories. I just pulled in a couple capstones. A company like SmartFi, reinventing their sales and marketing, integrating their technology, bringing HubSpot and AirCall together. We walked them through a multi-phase implementation plan. This plan specifically was completed in just 4 months, which is a decent timeline to think about how you can affect some of this change. This stuff doesn't need to take years to accomplish, people. It is achievable in a short timeline if we prioritize properly and we get the right pieces in place. So there's one example. I think I got one more in there, Louis. Yeah, just another really complex system for a very large team. This was supporting thousands of loan officers, helping them equip with the right data, lots of system integrations and migrations, how, back to that assessment and gap analysis, you may need to leave certain systems. There may be some duplicate systems in your tech stack. We may be able to consolidate and streamline your technology stack and certainly integrate with the other pieces that are there to really bring that single pane of glass we talked about. So just a couple quick examples there to show you what real life looks like. And I think as we go forward here, I'll leave you with one other key takeaways. And I think, Louis, are you going to run through this piece, bud?
I sure am. I'm glad I found that mute button in time, so there wasn't too long of a pause. But thank you, Eric, Nick, Mally. We'll leave everyone with really the key takeaways that we want everybody to just really remember as we conclude this webinar. A few of these key takeaways, again, is our solutions can really solve for the key challenges we presented at the beginning, right? Your customer experience, the competition, perhaps an outdated technology challenges. With HubSpot's CRM and centralized source of truth, AirCall's omni-channel communication approach, and then, of course, strategized, implemented, and integrated by industry experts at Instrumental Group is really the message that we want to leave you all with. But before we all part ways, I do also want to remind everybody, or more so let everybody know, to please scan this QR code. This will be included in the follow-up as well, but the QR code is going to have access to all of the resources, some of which we referenced today. You're going to have the AI sales guide for financial services. It's got lots of ways that it really shows you how AI can supercharge your sales efforts. We have access to the industry study as well that we referenced at the beginning of the presentation, and then just some more insights into really how HubSpot and AirCall can drive or can work together to drive your sales. So please, again, take a quick scan or screenshot this if you want to scan the QR code later. But again, this will be sent or followed up with from the Instrumental Group, so keep an eye out for this in your inboxes. So with that, we're going to move into our Q&A section. Again, I want to thank Eric, Nick, and Mally for some excellent talking points today. I'm going to open up our Q&A section here, see if we have anything live. And I also have received a couple of questions that we received prior to the actual webinar. So one actually here, Eric, this is going to be for you, is one of our folks asked, what specific challenges have other financial services firms faced when implementing new software, and how were these challenges overcome?
Yeah, good question. Lots of challenges here to work through for sure, and certainly different priorities for different organizations. But I think the things that I see most common are real concerns over private data from members. Anytime you're dealing with member communications, you're dealing with core banking systems, you're dealing with LOS systems. There's a lot of really important sensitive data in there. And how can you effectively secure data in transit? How can you secure data at rest? Some of those data security pieces, sensitive data, if you're storing people's social security card numbers, account numbers, balances, and stuff like that, that is a big set of concerns and something that should be worked through. Just a quick tip there, both HubSpot and AirCall are well equipped to handle sensitive data properly, and we are well equipped with the solutions and strategies to be able to transit that data between systems. So that can be accomplished, but it is certainly a concern. And then the other one is just like, how am I going to integrate all this stuff? How am I going to set it up? Who's doing what? What's the role of my IT team? What's the role of the vendor? What kind of access is needed? What strategies? Do we need API integrations? Do we need SFTP syncs? Like, what is an ETL anyway? Like, some of those tactics and strategies and capabilities of moving data between systems in a very secure way, like that entire topic is what I would raise as like the most common struggle and area of interest.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And that's actually a great segue into another question here, maybe more so for Nick. We're hoping that you can elaborate a little bit more on the security measures that are currently in place, particularly concerning the use of AI in financial services, like how HubSpot really ensures data privacy and protection.
Yeah, so just to piggyback off what Eric said, like HubSpot has, by default, a lot of like really robust security controls, and we can share out all the documentation along with our follow-up resources. But just know that all the HubSpot, whether it's being used by AI or not, is protected and is secure. And we've got a lot of great things in place to make sure that's the case 24/7. For AI in particular, one thing that was important to us as the AI boom happened was to go to market with an AI solution that was ethical and that was secure. So we'd seen a lot of, I think, the first iterations of different companies and their AI solutions maybe missed that mark a little bit. And so, wanting to kind of course correct there in the industry, we made sure that our solution is ethical. We're very conscientious about data sharing. We're very conscientious about other things related to the use of AI. And just, again, want to make sure that what we're doing is secure and ethical as it relates to AI. And we also have an entire resource page for our use of data as it pertains to AI that we can share as a resource as well.
Amazing. Thanks, Nick. And a lot of what we talked about today and this topic as well, I mean, it's really all about modernizing and modernizing your tech stack, right? I mean, AI, of course, having to tie that back to the data privacy and security measures needed, there can be some pushback, right? And so Mally, maybe a question for you. How do you overcome the pushback that some teams have about using technology, but also more importantly, oftentimes traditional phone systems, right? That sort of handheld device that really doesn't do all that much for you besides just making and receiving calls. What are some ways that you kind of overcome that pushback?
Yeah, that's actually quite a common question, especially when we're talking to industry leaders of they're just more used to those traditional systems. My guidance is always lead with the benefits of adopting this new technology, right? Yes, we are used to potentially, using those hard desktop phones. However, when you move towards just adopting technology that is it's also able to connect to all your other systems. So it's not just a siloed piece of technology anymore. It would allow the agents, right, to be more effective, save time. Those dreaded syncing back or logging calls back to your CRM, to HubSpot, to make sure that everything it's properly documented. At the end of the day, when you're trying to just, close up shop, none of that is there. Or all those hurdles are no longer there once you use technology that's able to talk to each other, right? So yes, it might be a change at the beginning just to get used to potentially using a soft phone or using it alongside elements like your CRM. But it will give you so much back on a day-to-day that you're able to actually have more effective action items on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. It's the fear of the unknown, right? I think Eric mentioned it earlier as well, where as leaders, we have to be willing to change. That's the starting point, and willing to try something new. And I think once you kind of get started, you really, once you get started is the first major hurdle. And once you start seeing those benefits come through, you forget as to why you wanted to remain with something maybe more traditional, more old school to begin with. So Eric, I kind of want to bring this back to you a little bit too. What are the biggest pushbacks you get from leaders about revamping their tech stack? We talked a little bit about telephony. I'd like to hear more about from a general tech stack perspective.
Yeah, I think it's certainly, I would categorize it all just sort of like the fear of the unknown, and certainly the fear of loss. What am I going to lose? Oh, if I'm going to go from a hard phone on my desk and my paper Rolodex and stuff like that, people are going to be uncomfortable. They're not going to know what to do with this extra desk space. Like they might have to get a plant or something, right? So like there is fear of the unknown, and there is fear of change. And I think like at the end of the day, I think Molly brought up a great point here. It's that fear of loss versus that need for gain. And what we do know here is the competitive environment and some of the stuff that I think all businesses in FinServ are facing right now. There are significant headwinds. Like the way things used to be done isn't yielding the same results. I know Nick called this out at the top of the webinar. I don't think it could be more relevant right now. And so there's some adage about like, if you expect different results, why would you do things the same way? Like embracing some of this stuff is how you modernize, how you grow, how you evolve as an organization. And I certainly think that there is a need to educate, to be able to mitigate some of those concerns. I do think that that's the responsibility of folks like us on this call, as keepers of these technologies, to be able to provide the right resources, the secure environment, and to be able to show them what the future looks like so they can get into that need for gain and start yielding some of those results. Like the responsibility is us to make sure we give a secure environment and help check all the boxes and answer all the questions to prepare people to be a little bit more confident to take the leap.
You mentioned education, Eric. I think that's a big one here as well, right? There's so much out there that, different tools, different CRMs, different VoIP providers. I mean, there's a lot to kind of sift through, and having folks like yourself to really be able to guide and indicate what is going to work best is really, really crucial to have these sort of open discussions. And Nick, I want to take this to you as well. I think for the CRM space in particular, it'd be great for you to kind of bring this back to Sales Hub and HubSpot in particular. What really sets Sales Hub apart from other sales software CRMs and platforms specifically for the financial services industry?
Yeah, so again, to draft off what Eric said with my answer, when you fail to change, you're setting yourself up for failure. So if we're thinking about implementing and adopting new solutions that kind of change the way you do things and adapt, to a changing macro environment, you need software that's easy, fast, and unified. And those are the three big differentiators, both for Sales Hub and the HubSpot platform overall. So if we think about Sales Hub in particular, it's easy to implement and easy to use. So you're not going to get bogged down with too much implementation or maintenance over time. It's intuitive and easy to use, and that leads to fast. So I get fast setup, I get fast time to adoption. And if I'm being honest, if I'm a sales leader, maybe I don't care about ease of use, but I do care about adoption very deeply. If my reps are using my software, I get more complete data. I get a better picture of what's happening in my business. So we just get fast results and fast time to ROI, frankly. And if we think about unified, I've got my sales data in HubSpot. I can layer on other platforms into that. The platform is very extensible. We can integrate with tons of other providers and solutions, like AirCall being one. And then if I'm able to think about extending my team's usage of HubSpot into other avenues like marketing or sales or marketing or service or something like that, that's even more business data that I'm getting into a platform. So I've got my sales software layered on top of a CRM that's also powering my marketing or service operations. That's a heck of a lot of unified data, and there's a better picture overall that I have as a business leader when I go into my CRM.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Nick. Folks, I think that concludes our Q&A and our webinar as a whole. I want to thank the three of you for joining. I'll remind everyone, whether you joined live or whether you're watching this via recording, check your inbox. You will have heard from Instrumental Group with some great resources to come back to. We will follow up with the recording of this webinar as well. Any one of us are available to answer any questions you have after the fact as well. But Eric, Nick, Mally, thank you so much, and have a great day.